So reports have come out over the past couple days. First, that the Suns were just looking around, maybe considering hearing what people's thoughts were on what they would give up for Kevin Durant. Reports have shifted within the last day or even the last several hours before I record this video, and it sounds as though the Suns are seriously considering trading Kevin Durant. Now, this does not sound the same as De'Aaron Fox rumors from last week, where it basically sounded as though he was almost certainly going to get traded, and obviously he did wind up getting traded to the Spurs. I would not be shocked as I record this video if Kevin Durant does remain a Phoenix Sun, but I understand why they're exploring these deals, and in my personal opinion, I think they should. And I want to explain why I think that in this video. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, multiple NBA videos a day. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's talk about it. So first and foremost, the Suns are just not very good. It's the honest truth. And that's not, I don't think, going to change. I mean, the Nick Richards deal was a good deal that got them a young, talented center who I think has been an upgrade at that center position. But the honest truth is, even with Nick Richards, they're 25-24. They've only won 6 of their last 10 games. They still have a negative net rating. The honest truth is, this is just not that good of a team. Back-to-back losses to Portland, who admittedly, give Portland credit, is playing really, really good basketball as of late. But a brutal loss tonight in overtime in a game that they needed to win. Look, Portland's been playing great basketball as of late and deserve credit for it, but I mean, Nick Richards just got completely and utterly outplayed by DeAndre Ayton, and I know his efficiency wasn't amazing, but this is a brutal loss. 25-20 against his old team. DeAndre Ayton kind of shoved it in their faces tonight a little bit, and this is another brutal loss for a Suns team that just cannot afford these types of losses, because at the end of the day, the honest truth is, when you look at the standings, they're not in a great position. They are 3 games back of the 6th seed. And I mean, while they're solidly in playing position, I say solidly, they're tied for the 11th seed. They're not like guaranteed anything. And teams like the Warriors, for example, are obviously being discussed as a serious suitor for Kevin Durant. Now, my thoughts real quickly on that. I've talked about the Warriors a lot recently and how I think there's going to try to make some sort of big move, but they also don't have the assets to make an insane move. Like, I'd be surprised if the Suns traded Kevin Durant for a package that had something along the lines of Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and like 2 or 3 picks. Like, I think that package is realistically probably a little bit too small. The assets that the Warriors have are not, in my opinion, quite good enough for the Suns to take that deal. But the thing about this is, despite what the Luka Doncic trade may make you think, super duper stars like a Kevin Durant are extremely valuable around the league. And there are a lot of people, despite Kevin Durant being 36 years old, that would be willing to give up a ton of assets to bring him to the team. And when I talk about a ton of assets, I mean potentially a high young talent player or 2, as well as multiple picks. I mean, the call that they traded for him originally was what, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and like 4 first-round picks, 2 really high-level role players who have become even more than that, and several first-round picks for KD. And while the return at this point, with him being a little bit older, wouldn't probably be quite as big, I do think it would still be extremely hefty. And for the Suns, considering they have 3 first-round picks and they're all guaranteed pretty much to be later in the first round picks, it just makes sense at the end of the day. It absolutely makes sense for them to explore their options and look into trading Kevin Durant, because they don't have a lot of assets and they don't have a team that looks to be well built and well positioned for the future. And look, the Bradley Beal contract is absolutely handcuffing them 100%. Because number one, he's just not played that well. Even off the bench has not been very good. He is extremely overpaid, probably the worst contract in the league, or at least right at the near top of that list. But Kevin Durant has very high value. Devin Booker also has very high value. Now, there have not been discussions as of yet of trading Devin Booker, and I would not be shocked if the Suns wanted to bring back assets for Durant that allow them to still be competitive. But the honest truth is, the ceiling for this team, even as assembled, feels like a team that if they really click and start to get things going, maybe they win a round in the playoffs. I think it is certainly possible, but I do not see a realistic path for the roster as currently constructed, or in all honesty, even if they are able to use these late firsts to upgrade the roster a little bit, I think the ceiling for this team is just not that high, and there's probably not a path towards making the finals or even getting all that close this year or in the next couple of years with the core as it is currently assembled and the lack of assets. So I've been saying this for a couple months. I think they should blow it up. I think they should trade Booker and KD. Will they? I'd be shocked. Will they trade KD specifically? I think it's possible. Would they love to trade Bradley Beal? 100%. Will they be able to? That's a whole other question. And I think the answer is probably no. I just don't see a team like the Bucks, who have potentially the contracts to make this type of deal work and would be potentially, in theory, according to some people, open to it. I just don't see them making that swap. The Bulls are kind of not an option anymore, with Zach LaVine having been moved to Sacramento. I struggle to see the fit and the team that'd be willing to take on Bradley Beal's contract for the next 2 years after this season. I think it's pretty darn unlikely with how mediocre he has played. And so, in all honesty, if you are able to turn Kevin Durant and Devin Booker into multiple young assets and 4, 5, 6, 7 first-round picks, depending on what the young assets that you get are, that I would strongly consider, because that gives you the ability to actually pursue rebuilding in a real capacity, similar to the way that the Nets basically traded Mikal Bridges to get a bunch of their first-round picks back this year, and have also obviously attained a bunch of other assets over the past few years. That's how you rebuild, is you accept that things aren't going the way they're supposed to, and you recoup as many assets as you can from your valuable pieces while they are still valuable. And as of right now, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker are both extremely valuable assets for, again, a Suns team that just is not all that good. 23rd in defensive rating in basketball, bottom 8. That's not great at all. Offensive rating wise, they're 11th in the league at a 114.0, and that does give them a negative net rating, putting them right outside the bottom 10 in basketball in net rating. I mean, they're not a horrible team, but they are certainly not a great one either. And the fascinating thing is, even in the last 10 games where they've been better, they're still not great. Very similar defensive rating at a 114.3. The offensive rating is 12th in basketball as well. Even since adding Nick Richards and since starting to play somewhat better, they're still not great. They're losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to. They're playing games that are closer than they should be on a night-to-night basis. They're still not an elite team, right around the middle of the league at 14th in net rating. And it's hard to realistically see a path towards contention for this team. So again, with the Jimmy Butler trade talk stalled, as they basically have to because the Heat aren't taking Bradley Beal back, plain and simple. They don't have a path to getting better that I can tell. And I think realistically, considering rebuilding is probably the right thing to do. Will they trade Kevin Durant? I have no idea. Will they trade Devin Booker? I think the answer to that question is almost certainly no. Although if we have learned anything over the past few days, as sad as it is for me as a Mavs fan, is you never know. Things can happen out of nowhere that would be stunning. And I think Devin Booker being traded would be one of those things. But for the situation the Spurs or the Suns are in, I would not be completely and utterly stunned personally if that were to happen. Either way, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Phoenix. It'll be fascinating to see if Golden State has enough assets to get a guy like Kevin Durant, because if they could add him back to the picture, I mean, yes, it's an old Steph, old KD, but that's still a terrifying team with those two dudes, even as assembled today. And it would definitely give Golden State an interesting opportunity as well to try to make one last run at a title. Either way, the trade deadline is what, 2 days away now? It's basically a full day. As y'all probably watched this video, we got a little bit more than a day to the trade deadline. So things are going to start happening and going to start happening quickly. Hey, I will be here to update y'all on everything that does happen over the next couple days. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Be back with more NBA content very, very soon. And I appreciate y'all. Peace.